Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for coming out on this beautiful Earth Day. So kind of nice to get together with folks that feel the same way. We all share that love of our wonderful Earth. So anyway, glad to see you here. And we're excited to present, have Sue Anderson present again. So looking forward to that. And also, it's great to start seeing migratory birds arriving. Do you have some coming into your yards and around where you've been birding? Pretty fun, huh? Yeah, it's wonderful. I don't have any particular announcements tonight. I'll turn it over to Dennis, and he can get us launched into the program. Thank you.
Going around that people need to put their name in.
Okay, what is that for?
Drawing.
Oh, a raffle drawing for you. Is it yours?
Yes.
Okay. So, did you know? Do you want to know?
You'll talk about it.
You'll. Okay.
Yeah.
It's her thing. Yes. There's. I think they're announcing it in the upcoming newsletter. Okay. Yeah. So.
And we're not going to know before then? Okay, it's a mystery. It's a mystery. We'll find out about the new name, that is. But it's the Lane County Audubon Society tonight. So welcome. And I'll tell you a little bit about what's happening next month. Next month, we're going to have Steve Shunk. If you remember, Steve was here last year at the same time. He's the woodpecker expert. He's written the book on woodpeckers, the Peterson guide series on woodpeckers and everything. He's just fantastic. He lives in Mexico, but comes back here and basically goes to Sisters, and he leads the woodpecker festival that they have up there every year in late May. And he finds time to come down here and give us a talk over here. So that's going to be next month on May 27th. The title is going to be Living with Woodpeckers, the Folklore, History, and Science. And it really sounds interesting. So put that on your calendar, May 27th, the Tuesday after Memorial Day, I think it is. But tonight, we have a great speaker with us. A lot of you were here last year when Sue Anderson spoke to our group. And she talked about, in general, woodpeckers, and I mean woodpeckers. Woodpeckers, butterflies. And tonight she's going to be much more specific about a particular butterfly, the monarch butterfly, which has an amazing migration. Some of you may have watched 60 Minutes on Sunday, and I think you'll talk about that a little bit, Sue. Will you talk about the 60-minute thing?
I was just going to start with that.
Yeah, okay. So you'll more, it's amazing stuff. So she's kind of focused on that today. And so we're just real excited to have her back. So please give a nice warm welcome to Sue Anderson.
So how many of you saw the 60 Minutes program with Anderson Cooper? Well, you all could leave right now if you want to, because that was my whole program. And I went, oh my gosh, we could just show that and we'd be good.
They're blank things.
They're in the jar.
There's some blank ones in there.
Yeah.
Be sure it's blank.
Just put your name on one.
So for the rest of you, we're going to take a flight with the Monarchs tonight. And I'm going to start with the slide that Rick in the back, Rick Aarons loaned me, because we want to start with what's not a monarch. In here, okay? So monarch, queen, soldier, viceroy. This is the royal family of butterflies. They're all, I'm sure Rick had this in a slideshow talking about Müllerian mimicry, Rick. And all four of these butterflies are have the toxic carotenoids in them. So it's not like they found out that the viceroy it's not as toxic as the monarch to eat, but it still has it in it. So all four, oh, there it is, Müllerian mimicry. Yeah. So we don't have queens here in Oregon. We don't have soldiers. We do have viceroys, but they're like over east of the Cascades up in the John Day area around there. So they're If you see a big orange and black butterfly, it's a monarch around here. They're kind of rare here in the valley, but they do migrate back and forth. And right now, they're not here yet. But I'll show you where you can go to find out where they're coming from. This is not a monarch, but we used to get lots of calls saying, "Oh my gosh, I just drove over the pass, and there were 1,000 monarchs all over everywhere." Well, this is what they were seeing. It is orange and black, and has some white on it, but this is California tortoiseshell, which is half the size of a monarch, and they have boom and bust years. And in the boom years, there could be hundreds of them. I mean, I watched a news program once where they were interviewing a UPS truck driver and, you know, the big windshields that they had, and they had to stop at gas stations and wash the windshields off and then go on for a while because they were being splattered with so many butterflies. So, okay. And this is something that Rick loaned me too. He was over in Oahu and got to see, I think at the zoo there, a white monarch. So that's I don't think they've ever been seen here in the States. It's on not Hawaii. So
Is that considered an albino?
I don't think it's an albino. They breed,
Okay.
right? So that's the only place, the island of Oahu is the only place you can find them. So it's just I guess it's a hereditary kind of defect that prolonged itself out there in the system. So I thought that's pretty curious. So the bad news is the Western monarch butterfly population is declining significantly. Not only the monarchs, but for 20 years ago, for every 5 butterflies you saw, you only see 4 now. So it's 1/5 of the species are disappearing. And to graphically illustrate that, you can see, look at the difference between 2023 and 2024. That's a huge drop. And that's the Western monarch butterflies. The Eastern, we suffered like a 90% loss. Here, the ones east of the Rockies, about an 80% decline. But I know when you look back and when they first started keeping records back in 97, that's huge. So just to see, and look, we're monitoring more sites and finding less butterflies. So because of these numbers, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has proposed listing the monarch butterfly as a threatened species, not endangered yet. I think it should go right to endangered, but as a threatened species. So, okay, let's start real quickly, just run through the life cycle. The butterflies, the monarchs leaving Mexico will mate and look for their first growing milkweeds. Now, the milkweeds here haven't even started to appear. They're not yet. They don't, and the ones I had over in Sisters didn't come out until the end of May, almost. So you won't find monarchs coming through here because the milkweed's not ready for them yet. So here's a monarch laying an egg on narrowleaf milkweed. And then these eggs are laid singly. And this one was laid on the stem. You can see that's a pencil, mechanical pencil. So you can see what the size is. And they're ribbed. And there's other insects on the milkweed too. Here's a milkweed bug. But they'll be laid on this one's on the underside of the leaf, but they can lay them on the surface side of the showy milkweed here. So it's fun to watch them just going from plant to plant. And you catch a female and just watch her for a while, and she lays one here, one there. She says, "No, I don't like this leaf." One here, and she just picks her spot, and you can see her antennae. going down to the leaf and testing it, smelling it, sensing the chemicals in it, saying, this one's perfect. So she lays an egg right here. And then she goes the next thing and does the same thing with her antenna. Antenna go down and she tastes with her feet and with her antenna. And she wants the perfect leaf, which has the perfect food for her caterpillars. And of course, that's all they can eat is milkweed. So the caterpillars strikingly colorful, and they can they can decimate a milkweed pretty quickly. Sometimes they're joined by others taking advantage of the milkweed. Those are aphids. And there's a wonderful story in a book that Rick's loaned me called Milkweed Lands. And it's a great story, and it talks about the aphids in there on the milkweed. So here's one which is eating all the leaves on that one. Uh-oh, this happens sometimes. This is, I always forget, European paper wasp? Yeah. Okay, European paper wasp has found and ravaged a monarch caterpillar there. And sometimes they get the chrysalids too, just make a mess of things, but hopefully there's enough to go around for everybody. When the monarchs are ready to pupate, they put a little button of silk and attach to it on a leaf, or it could be on a twig, could be on a fence post, could be on anything. And they form this J, and then things start happening inside. And pretty soon, you'll see them shed the skin. It splits, and then it just sheds all the way down, like taking off a tight pair of leotards or something. Comes off, drops to the ground, and then inside is the chrysalis. And the chrysalis, somehow they managed to put those beautiful gold dots all around the top, which I just love. You can see already a wing pattern underneath. And when they're just about ready to eclose and come out, the chrysalis turns transparent, and you could see the monarch inside all tucked in tight there. And then the chrysalis splits open, monarch falls out, hangs onto it. It's got little toenails on the end of its feet, hangs onto the chrysalis and starts pumping fluid into its wings. And it might take several hours to do that, and poof, off it goes. So this whole process takes about 30 days or so. So we, as a family, got interested in the whole monarchs and the whole program because we were frequent visitors to one of our favorite places, which was Lava Beds National Monument, just south of the Oregon border, south of Klamath Falls down there. Great place to go. Not too many people there. Lots of lava, lots of caves, lots of lava caves. You could spend all day just going through all the caves there. But we liked it because the narrowleaf milkweed grows along the roadsides there, and it always had monarchs. That's not narrowleaf, but there's a monarch on a blooming showy milkweed. But so what do you do when you have 3 kids with you who are very interested in what's going on out there? We went to the library, and we got this book out of the library, and it tells the story of a professor in Canada who saw his monarch butterflies all heading south at the end of summer. And so he said, where the heck do they go? And so he devised a little tag. The whole story's in here. I got a copy of the book. So he devised little tags, and he started tagging these butterflies to see if they would show up somewhere. He didn't know where. And within this book here, great illustrations in there. This butterfly went all the way to Mexico. A young boy found it, followed it, captured it, brought it home because it had the tag on it. and I don't know if it was his mother or his teacher, I can't remember, chased down where the butterfly, because it says right on the tag, it's Toronto, Canada, and how to contact them. And they sent a letter and contacted him, and he said, holy smokes, my butterfly went all the way to Mexico. He said, well, maybe all the others are going to Mexico too. Well, sure enough, they decided to take a trip to Mexico to find out, chase these monarchs and find out where they were going. And in 1975, they reached the overwintering sites and were absolutely blown away, as you can imagine. And in 1976, then National Geographic did a whole story on it. And I have that magazine. It's on the back table if you want to look at it. So it was pretty amazing. Of course, the Mexicans have known about it for years, probably hundreds of years. They've lived there, and they celebrate the return of the monarchs on the Day of the Dead, because they believe that the monarchs represent their spirits of their departed loved ones. And so Rick also loaned me these pictures that he took at the Maud Kearns Gallery. So, of course, monarchs and departed spirits, that go together. Makes sense. So we wrote to that professor, Dr. Urquhart, in Canada, and said, hey, you need somebody else to tag some monarchs. We live out here in the West. We want to know where ours go to. So he said, sure. And he sent us a whole bunch of these little tags. So we went out at lava beds and caught the monarchs, put the little tag on the wing there. You can almost see it, Canada. Toronto, Canada. There we go. And let them go. And we thought, oh, that tag's going to really hurt them when they try to fly. It didn't at all. They're very strong flyers. And off they went. And our children have ever since been involved in, well, not now, but back then. Here's our daughter, Miriam, investigating a monarch caterpillar that's just about to pupate. Looks like it's in its 5th instar, which is each time the skin gets so tight, splits off, and they get a new skin. They go through this about 5 times as they get ready to pupate. And here she is at 16 and has just tagged that monarch there at lava beds. So it's great to take kids along. And we take kids that have, these are older kids that just still love butterflies from their youth. And we take them along too, and they're good catchers. But taking children with you, once a child held a butterfly on their finger, they never want to go out and do anything to harm them. They form a special relationship with them because that butterfly is theirs, so to speak. We would name some of them, would say on our list of what we had tagged, we would say, okay, this was Miriam, she tagged this one, Ruben tagged this one, to see, just in case one came back, we'll say, oh, it was Caleb's, it was his butterfly that they found. Out of all the hundreds that we tagged, we only ever got one return. And that was from a researcher who had gone up to Tahoe from the California coast and took a whole bunch of collected monarchs with him. And then he released them at Tahoe to see if they would go back to where he had collected them on the coast of California. Well, as he was releasing it, he found one of ours that was tagged. So he didn't release it. He took it back to the coast and released it there. And so, but he let us know that he had found it. So we were thrilled for that one. And we were stopped by this guy at lava beds, and he was lights and siren and everything came up behind us. And he said, you can't be sweeping monarchs and butterflies with those nets, and I'm going to write a ticket and you're going to get fined and you're not allowed to be da 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 da. And he went on and on. And we said, we have a permit that we got, and here's what we're doing. We're not keeping the butterflies. We're just tagging them and releasing them. By the way, could you hold this one for us while we, and then he was all smiles. He said, oh, that's cool. So that was back in the 80s, early 90s. We still have, in the family, we still have the old Chevy Suburban that we took the kids out on these trips. It's even been to Mexico and back. So, and then there was places like over near Clarno, there's a place where they planted hundreds and hundreds of milkweed plants to distribute throughout the state. And of course, lots of monarchs there. But that was one place, Rick, where we watched. There was a big paper wasp nest over in one of the trees up there. And those wasps, we'd watch them come down and just nail the caterpillars back there. So we didn't know whether to take the nest down or not. I didn't ask when I left, but I would have liked to. And we raised monarchs on our kitchen table too. And of course they would emerge. We'd put a tag on them and send them off. So here's how it goes. In the spring, they leave the overwintering site. And if you watch the 60 Minutes program, that's up in the Oyamel firs at 11,000 feet in Mexico, in central Mexico. So, and here, these that are in Mexico are the ones that flew there last fall. So they fly until they find milkweed. It's ready for them, lay the eggs on the milkweed, and they don't go much further, they die there. So then the next generation that emerges from those eggs keeps on moving north. And anywhere from 3 to 5 generations hopscotch their way all the way, well, throughout. I mean, they breed all the way throughout here, not just in Canada, but they go as far as the milkweed grows. So you can see at the top, limit of host plant Asclepias, which is the milkweed. So if the milkweed were further up the butterflies would go further too. These are actually, monarchs are actually tropical species that have adapted to this system. They figured out this system they could, it's a way to propagate in a different environment using this host plant. So very clever of them. I think it works pretty well, unless, of course, the environment is changed, which we will see could happen. So here they go. They move their way north. The next generation goes further north. The next generation goes further north. And then they finally get up to Canada. Our monarchs here west of the Rockies go to the coast of California, although a few sneak down to, we found out through tagging, sneak down to Mexico. You can watch this happen if you go to the Journey North website, where people, it's just like for migrating birds, people will post, okay, I saw my first black-headed grosbeak return or something like that. And it's here too. They say, we saw our first monarch in the backyard. And then all those dots on a map show up. So you can click in there maybe once a week or more often and see where the monarchs, how far north that they've gotten, all hundreds of dots on the map. And it's just like this wave of butterflies coming north. It's kind of exciting to watch. So now the last generation of monarchs up in Canada, since and I'll tell you how in just a minute, since it's time to move south, so they call that the super generation. They no longer mate, and they build up fat reserves because they know they're going a long way. I don't know if they even think about it. It's thinking I'm going a long way, So I better put on a lot of fat. I like that idea. See, I'm going to Europe. I could eat a lot of fat. But these butterflies get ready to make the trip down. It's almost 2,000 miles. So it's quite, and actually on about a fifth of them make it. And that's it. The rest, I think one of the biggest things that that hurts them on their journey south is well, two things. The storms that come in and ground a lot of them. And the other thing is crossing highways and getting hit by trucks or cars, especially big trucks, because they fly low. You know, they're looking for nectar to refuel on their whole trip south. So it's tough. But ours go to the California coast and hang out in the eucalyptus trees there over the winter. And then there's a non-migratory population that hangs out all year round in Florida. So we decided we would go visit one of these places, and that's at the Natural Bridges Park. They're near San Jose on the coast. And this is what we saw the first time we went down there in October, maybe November, late October. We were thrilled. That was just absolutely amazing to see that many, because we had caught them one by one, you know, and seen them flying around lava beds, but never could we imagine that we would see this many monarchs in one place. So it was a pretty exciting trip. We took our scope and set it up and just scoped all those looking for a tag, but we didn't find one. But in the visitor center, they had a number of tags that they had found. We went back another year, and this is how many we found. And this is why. There were it was a bad year for storms, and it just wiped out the monarch population down there. So, however, they're all set up for you to visit. So you can go down there. They have trails to go see them, zones. You can get up and personal with the monarchs because they're in a lot of the trees there, all the way from the ground up to the top. And so you can look eye to eye with them. They even have a monarch statue there in one of the parks. That's the ocean out there in the back. So several sanctuaries along the coast where monarchs hang out there, not in the oyamel trees, but those look like pines. Yeah, pines. However, I should have prepared you for this slide. That is nothing compared to seeing this in the mountains of Mexico. So the butterflies, as you saw on 60 Minutes, those of you watched it, they cling to the bark of the trees there. They're so thick that you can't even see the tree. And sometimes there's so many of them that they bend the branches. So these show some with the wings open, but when the wings are all closed, you can hardly tell that there's butterflies there. They're all tight and they're all kind of camouflaged. And I don't know if you ever watched the PBS series Nature that had the little robots. They made a whole series of different robots, and one of them was like a blue-throated hummingbird. And so they sent the hummingbird up into the monarchs inside a swarm of them up there. And I'm going to see if I can.
In the heart of his own, 500 million monarch butterflies lie sleeping. They have traveled from as far as Canada to escape the cold northern winter. How they return to this exact spot is a mystery. Like butterflies, hummingbirds feed on nectar, so our spy isn't seen as a threat. While resting, they cluster together to precious warmth. But as the winter ends, the sun warms their fragile wings. Once they reach a critical degrees, they start to fly. As the day warms, the forest comes to life. My heart will harm these delicate butterflies. Its moving parts are built to keep them safe. Butterflies can even safely land on its wings. It begins to capture something quite extraordinary. What starts as a trickle soon becomes a stream. Then grows into a cascade. A spectacle that has rarely been filmed. And our spy is harmlessly in the very heart of it. Also lies in the detail.
Right there in the water.
That's amazing. That's right. I think they filmed that before they had the numbers that really decline. But if you can't get to California or you can't get to Mexico, you can get maybe to the Elkton Community Butterfly Center here. And that's only an hour's drive south. You were there today? Oh, well, give it another month. And June, July is the best time to go. But they're all set up to breed monarchs there. They have a nice pavilion where all the butterflies are flying free inside here. And then they have like a rearing room where they take the caterpillars and put them in these little jars and give them some food. And then you can see this one's getting ready to pupate there. And then once they form a chrysalis, they take them outside in the pavilion and hang them on a board. It's the funniest thing. They walk in there and see all these chrysalids hanging in the board and like they're hanging out to dry. And you can watch these as they're getting ready to eclose. And I took a family down there last summer. And she's pointing to one where it's just coming out of the chrysalis. The kids were absolutely fascinated by this. Here it comes, Mom. Watch, he's coming out, Mom. It was amazing. And here he is coming out of the chrysalis. And then since they're free flying, they land all sorts of places. So Willa's holding, that girl will love butterflies for the rest of her life after this. And her mom got one too. This one, you can see it's still a little dark and fresh, just landed on top of her hat there. So But they tagged their monarchs, of course. They tagged 762 monarchs. 5 were recovered at the Lighthouse Field near Santa Cruz, nearly 500 miles south. So that's pretty impressive. And they have lots of gardens there to stroll around. They're redoing the whole garden area right now. So this is all at the Butterfly Center. Yep. Yeah. So they have a website, so you can go there and learn a lot more. And also you can contact them and ask them when's the best time to come. And they have tour leaders. They have volunteers that work there every day, and they will take you around and explain everything. Okay, maybe you can't go all the way down to Elkton. You can go right here in Eugene to Razor Park. And because of Becky's, who's here tonight, again, seeing this program for what, the 5th time, Becky? For her efforts and her volunteers' efforts have been hand watering a patch of milkweed there. And by golly, the monarchs have found it. And every year they lay eggs there and she takes the ones she can find and raises them at home in a little butterfly rearing set up right there. So this is from, I think, 2 years ago, and there were 3 to release. And here's one of her volunteers getting ready to let one go. And this one wanted to stick around home after it was released. So it landed on the hat there and hung on for quite a while and then said, okay, time to go, and finally flew off. But she's done some amazing work, and she could always use volunteers down there to help haul water or whatever. But just as amazing was this middle school class. There's the teacher kneeling on the floor there. They got 2 monarch caterpillars, raised them on their own milkweed in there, and ended up with 2 adults. And they, with the help of Dr. David James from the University of Washington, they put a tag on each one. So they just had these 2 butterflies, and here it is with a tag on it, ready to go. Took it out in the front of the school and held it up, and they named one of them Journey, and I forget the name of the other one. But they released the butterfly, and here is the route that butterfly took. And it ended up just near Los Angeles, 800 miles away. And what are the chances? You've got 2, I mean, our family tagged hundreds of monarchs. We got 1 return. And they only tagged 2 butterflies and got 1 return. So this was such a, I don't think it here. Oh yeah, I got to show a picture of Jean Nave, is a local author in Sisters. And she helped the kids write a book. They put together a book about this butterfly that had gone 800 miles. And Journey's Flight, Sisters middle school students, and made lots of, and the kids drew pictures of what they think the monarch would have encountered along the way. And there was somebody with a net. There was a dog that jumped up and tried to grab one. There was all, bad weather. There was all kinds of things. And it's a great book, and of course told the whole story of the monarch butterfly. And then Dr. James returned and did a whole program in Sisters about his tagging efforts, and he tagged 6,154 reared monarchs, and they were reared at the Walla Walla prison by the inmates there, who took a real interest in this. And they all signed up. They wanted to do this. They grew their own milkweed plants, and the monarchs came, laid the eggs. They raised those monarchs, and he came and tagged them. He also tagged 390 that he had caught in the wild. And 2,222 were from Oregon. And this was in 2017. He also likes to work with kids, and he brought this along for the kids to get into. So, okay, this gal, and I have her book here, took an amazing journey. You can come look at this. This is Sarah Dykman. She followed the butterflies on a bicycle for the whole northern trip and the southern trip back down. She did the whole loop on a bicycle. She even took her computer in the back and kept notes and kept in touch with people and camped in all kinds of strange places, met all kinds of interesting people. So her story is a fascinating one. It's not just about monarchs, it's about all her adventures along the way. And I read this book twice, and I've learned more about monarchs from reading that book than anywhere else. So it's a fun read, even if you don't care about the science. Here, see how she started out, and then she made that loop to the west a little bit into Texas, then back up, then all the way up into Canada. And then back, she came actually through New York City and saw a monarch flying there in the buildings, came all the way back down, cross trails again with the Monarch joint venture in Kansas, and met with Chip Taylor there, and then kept on coming. And then she kind of made a beeline right back to the overwintering sites. So 10,201 miles she did on the bicycle. And think that a monarch does this without a bike. So he just flaps his way all the way down.
Did the monarchs move that slowly that she could kind of keep up with the group of them?
No,
Kept finding-
no, they move, they can do 100 miles in a day. And she didn't know specifically which one she was following. They just appeared. So she wasn't following a group of them. They don't hang together. Sometimes they will roost together in a tree at night. So, but once they get there and start hanging out in the trees, there's still lots of things that they could be subject to, some harms that they could be subject to. So our black-headed grosbeaks can go to Mexico and eat monarchs. So that one up there is eating some of the monarchs. And of course, these are all, well, the animals there that are eating them have adapted to being able to, their digestive systems being able to assimilate, the toxins in them. So black-headed, it's interesting. Also the blackback oriole. And look at the coloring matches the monarch. See, they're black, orange, and white. Black, orange, and white. So I don't know if it's because they're trying to blend in with the monarchs. I don't know. They don't have to sneak up on them. I mean, there's millions of monarchs there, so it's not like they have to sneak up on one and catch it. Also, the black-eared mouse. Black-eared mouse waits for the ones that come to the ground and then eats the bodies there. Logging has taken a huge toll because the butterflies need the tree not only to roost in, but also to protect them from the elements. When they first started monitoring these places back in 1971, well, it was 75 when they found the reserves, but then they started counting in 71, the Western population. It was like 45 acres of different reserves in Mexico. Now it's 4.5. And the reason is illegal logging. And so, they've even, proclaimed this a preserve, and Mexico designated this a reserve. It's still illegal logging. And logging, if they log around the perimeter and those trees are gone, then the cold winds of storms, they're 11,000 feet. So cold winds of storms come in, and this is what happens. When those storms come in, and it gets so cold that a lot of them die and just end on the ground. So, and of course, the availability of milkweed is a huge factor. Whether or not these butterflies are going to survive, because a lot of Midwest prairie is now it's being converted to either pavement or agriculture, where they just grow a monocrop and they no longer have the and they take out the milkweed. And so we just have patches of it here and there. They don't have their milkweed, they don't survive. So questions come up on how they navigate. It took a while, a long while. It's explained in that book by Sarah. She stopped and talked to Chip Taylor with the Monarch joint venture, and he has a whole, at the University of Kansas, there has a whole setup for that. And they tried to figure out, they would put monarchs in a room and then simulate sunshine and then temperature, and then try to see where the monarchs were they following the sun when you've darkened the room and then turn on light over here? Would they follow the light? They did hundreds of experiments, but it's all the whole process. The angle of the sun, when the angle of the sun reaches a certain number of degrees on the horizon, that triggers something in the monarch. So that would be probably through their eyes. Remember those old antennas on the top of the TV, the rabbit ears, they called them, you know, with the half circle in the middle. That reminds me of a monarch right there. He's got the half circle, the eyes right there, and they can see the sun, and how when it gets to a certain degree down close to the horizon, they say, okay, time to go. They'll line up along the Great Lakes and wait for a favorable day to go. And then they'll all leave at once and cross the Great Lakes. Well, just like the warblers, same thing. So, but the other part of it is the antenna. So when it's not real sunny, or if the sun's on a cloudy day, they'll default to plan B, which is using polarized UV light to navigate by. I don't know how that works, but it's pretty specialized. And the third way is through a magnetic compass. And that's so those antennae are kind of like GPS antennae. You know, they can see where they are on the map. They know where they are on the map by geospatial reading that they get from their antenna. Now, we think we have very advanced technology. They've been doing this for hundreds and hundreds of years. So it's pretty far advanced, I would say. So in addition, they have to compensate for wind and storms blowing them off course. And then these same butterflies that migrate down had to reverse everything and going back toward north the next spring. Pretty sophisticated technology, I would say. And they still don't understand. It's still a mystery but they're figuring it out. Look at that little tiny head. It's about the size of my little fingernail. And here are the antenna, and they can get all the way down south. So I don't know how we can, that says, what's all the buzz about helping these amazing butterflies, travelers along their way? That's what it says. You can plant milkweed. And monarchs aren't the only ones that use milkweed. It's a great pollinator plant. You'll see all kinds of butterflies on it, and bee flies, bumblebees love it. And today's Earth Day, so what better day to emphasize that protecting monarchs and enabling them to find the milkweed and move on is just great. So you can, I don't know how many of you have been out to Doak Nurseries, but it's a candy shop for plants for native plants out there. It's wonderful. So that's one nursery where you can get native plants and milkweed stored. Also, May 10th is the native, it's a, yes, and Doak will be there with Monarch, with milkweed plants. If you get there early, because they sell out within the first hour or so. Everybody wants a milkweed. So I wouldn't suggest planting Buddleia. It's invasive and it's not native.
What?
Buddleia, butterfly bush. It's all over town. Buddleia, okay, Buddleia. So if you work with school children and get them to a class to plant milkweed plants, that's a great thing you can do. Here's a group we had over in Central Oregon that we had a lot of donated milkweed plants. Some of them came from that nursery in Clarno where I was holding the butterfly. And dig holes, put the milkweed in, and then protect them with a little screening and come back and hand water them from time to time. That's near the river, so we could just dip the buckets in and bring them up and water them all. Great group. They're called the Great Old Broads. And they do more than just this. They do all kinds of projects. They're older women who are still very active, and they go out and do things like this. And they planted milkweed all day long. So Janet and I went out near the railroad tracks. They were on Nielsen Road and found the milkweed out there that Rick first told us about. This is what it looks like at the end of the season. But it looks like all the pods opened, and so there's seeds out there flying somewhere. And that's good. You can check the Xerces Society website. They've got tons of information there. Monarch Watch, that's the one running out of Kansas City. For example, just about any subject on monarchs is on their website. How to plant milkweed. Photo guide and instructions on growing your own milkweed, because it's not that easy. It's a little tricky. So also in the very last page of this book that Rick loaned me, the very last page is, except for this, how to start milkweed from seed. So get that book out of the library. And of course, I represent the Lane County Butterfly Club. You can go to lanebutterflies.org. You can see all our field trips and counts that are planned and join us on any of those or come to any of our programs. Our next program is going to feature Neil Bjorklund, who many of you probably know. He's a great birder, but he's a wonderful butterfly. And he's just revised his Finding Butterflies in Lane County and get a whole new version. It's all in color with more sites to go to. And he's going to be presenting his new guide May 6th at the Hilliard meeting place. Okay. And of course, Neil's site, Butterflies of Oregon. You can look up any butterfly in Oregon and he'll have a whole page on it. Wonderful. So this is the one, Finding Lake County. This is the 4th edition. It's the 5th edition that he'll be featuring on May 6th. This book is your best guide for the Northwest, the whole Northwest. And we still have Butterflies of Lane County. It's like a little pocket field guide. I have a couple back there if you want to buy one. The price is going up, so you ought to get them quick. Now, I'd like to end the program with one more trip to the Mexican mountains because it is so phenomenal.
Yes, so I've driven for about 4 hours today from Mexico City to the top of this hill where now I'm on a horse. And we are about to see something I've wanted to see since I was about 5 years old. So at the end of every summer, millions, tens of millions of monarch butterflies take a journey south. Now, whether they're coming from Colorado, Connecticut, or even Canada, they all end up in this same forest here in the middle of Mexico. And I think it's going to absolutely blow my mind. It's going to blow the horse's mind, and I hope it blows your mind too. So let's keep riding.
After riding a little longer and then hiking with my local guide, Jose Luis, they started to appear. Hundreds of them in the sky, and then thousands on the side of the trail warming up in the sun. And trust me when I tell you, this is just the beginning.
Not sure if you listen carefully, you can hear it, but that's not wind. That is the sound of millions of butterflies flying around me right now. And it's probably my favorite sound ever. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. So insane.
Meet one of nature's greatest treasures, the overwintering site of the monarch butterfly migration. To understand migration, you have to realize that many of these butterflies are the great grandparents to next year's migrants. Their journey took an average of 1,800 miles to get down here and spend the winter. This spring, it will take 3 generations of butterflies into the summer to travel back up throughout North America. Each of these butterflies has its own unique story of how it ended up here.
So we can't go any further on this trail. And there's about a million reasons why if you look up ahead. And I gotta get this because on the hand of my lovely camera woman, what just happened? Hi. Look. It wants to be famous.
Wants to give me a kiss.
So they actually closed the trail up ahead because if you look, the entire trail is covered in butterflies getting sun for the day. And it's amazing. Everywhere I look, it just gets better.
Butterflies are survivors. It is getting harder and harder for them to complete this journey, and their population is dropping because of it. Their native prairies in the US have started to disappear. But if you want to help these butterflies in their migration, you can. The best thing to do is simple. Plant native flowers for them to fuel up on and fruit trees for them to lay on, and they will come.
So none of this would be possible without the laurels. And I'm not just talking about me being here, I'm talking about this entire forest being protected. Monarch has basically become a source of income and important pride that this town has. And Jose Luis has been an amazing guy. Jose Luis, ¿cuántos años aquí?
Por 16 años,
¿Y qué quieres decir al mundo de esas mariposas que solo vienen a
pues cuidarlas, más que nada, y cuidar mucho mucho que tenemos aquí de santuario, el elegido, el rosario.
Oye, gracias.
Thank you for coming tonight.